I love today's conversation with Michelle Martin. She's the CEO and founder of Maka Health. It's a functional medicine company that comes right to you. It was largely created because of her health struggles with an irreversible autoimmune disease that she cured with lifestyle medicine. Michelle is smart, she's funny, passionate, and changing healthcare as we know it. I hope you enjoy today's conversation. I've got a question for you. Who's the person you're being? Are you satisfied? It's okay. This is a judge-free zone, and it's exactly why I started the show. Welcome to Be the Person, a podcast for the brave and the curious who are ready to explore who they are fully created to be. I'm your host, Annie Randall, the adventurous one leading this investigative journey of transformation. By delving into topics and asking unexpected questions, we will discover the keys for unlocking our true potential and being our best selves today. You may be surprised by what you find when you let go of fear in order to discover the answers of becoming the person you were made to be. Welcome to Be the Person podcast. Thank you so much for joining today. I can't wait for you to hear from today's guest. I had the pleasure of speaking with her last week and just love all the things she's doing. Michelle Martin is the CEO and founder of Maka Health. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
It's wonderful to be here. How are you today?
I'm great. It's
Great.
morning for me, and I know it's probably evening for you because you're in Portugal, correct?
It is. It's just over 30 degrees, a beautiful day, and I'll definitely get some of that sunshine after this. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about you today because I know you have a very interesting story. Kind of what got you to Portugal, because that's not where you're from, right? And then how did you start with Maka Health?
Well, thank you. Maka Health is so dear to my heart, so thank you for asking. I won't talk your ear off. I'll keep it relevant to what people are probably interested in. But I'm a founder. I'm a CEO. I've been building technology startups for the better part of 15 years, and I've been from Canada, the west coast of Canada, and on my journey, I discovered, well, first of all, that there was this incredible space in the world where I didn't have to have a 9 to 5 job and I could, live the life of my dreams. But also that meant working really, really hard because I had to, sometimes, work from 4 in the morning till midnight at certain stages of my entrepreneurial career. Well, like a lot of entrepreneurs, this actually led to what some people called burnout. It was on my third tech startup and I thought things were going so well. And I went from a one-way plane ticket to Silicon Valley with a funded company to not being able to get out of bed and having to completely let go of my company and my sense of livelihood because I didn't know what was wrong with me. So this was a pretty bizarre situation for me to be in. And being the incredibly, I guess, tenacious person that I am to try to solve problems, I just started to see doctor after doctor after doctor, and knew for sure that my conventional medicine doctor wasn't getting me anywhere. So I knew I had to keep looking. I discovered functional medicine, which was able to do a lot more than any of the naturopaths that I've been working with. I love naturopathy, but it really took things to the next level for me. And I actually found a solution and got better and learned so much about myself and how the female body works. So that exploration made me realize there's so many sick people in the world that could be healed if they knew that this was out there. And it also made me realize there is so much health potential that is untapped in this world because we don't know what the best looks like for us. Because no one teaches us that. No one teaches this in school. The doctors aren't even taught that. So how are we supposed to know? It's like this hidden, massive treasure trove of knowledge. So that's where Maka Health came from. And we've been at it several years building technology and an incredible practitioner community to help people heal, help people optimize, and really become the person they want to be. So that's the short story of a long story, but that is Maka Health, and our mission is universal wellness. So we're always looking to serve people in a way that really connects with them, both on like a precision health level, but also in a way when people come into our membership in a way that really deeply connects with what they need. And sometimes the human needs of being listened to, being believed about your symptoms is as healing and important as those data-driven interventions. So we really do create a safe space that provides the whole support network for people.
So good. I'm sorry you had to go through that journey, and I know that must have been difficult. But I love on the other side that you brought this company out to help so many other people because I'm
Mhm.
sure people are listening and resonating. If it's not them, it's somebody they know. So tell us a little bit more about what is Maka Health and what does the platform do?
Absolutely. Thank you. So let's see. If you come into Maka Health and, people come to us for different reasons, and we like that. But often someone will come to us because they have symptoms and they don't know what they are and they're not getting answers from anywhere else. So no matter what that situation is, who that person is, we always bring people into a very, very deep health history analysis. And we look at things that some people go, Why is that relevant? Why is my dental history relevant? What about the house I grew up in? Why is that relevant? We'll ask things that seem like ancient history, but there's so much that lives in the body, both from a psychological level and from a pure biological level that is just not seen by most tests. So you really have to understand the whole narrative. So that's a multi-hour process, to be fair, with our health specialists. Of course, gathering all symptoms and understanding that whole health picture. I think it's worth noting that we look at health through the lens of 7 different worlds of health, we call them worlds of wellness. So these will sound, the first 3 will sound familiar: sleep and restfulness, nutrition and hydration, and exercise and movement. Those are like so foundational. But then you have these 4 other worlds that sometimes people just don't look at when they think about their health, and you really need to. So relationships and connections, I think there's been research that, you could die of loneliness and of smoking at about the same rate, which is unbelievable, but believable, true. Um, then we have um, well-being and mental cognition. So really people looking for like that sharpness. Then stress and resilience. So this is so, so important. We hear a lot about stress, but actually how we can read and understand it manifesting in the body um, objectively and analytically, that's really helps us clarify how people need to make adjustments in their life. And then this is my favorite world of wellness. It's at the end because it's the most controversial. It's called environment and sensory experience. And there is incredible science about things like specific sunlight exposure and different light therapies, as an example, that uh, isn't commonly known, but can have incredible effects for something like Parkinson's disease, different cancers. So that's just one area of that world that speaks to people. All that being said, when we bring people through the 7 worlds of wellness and understand their life through those lenses, we then do our testing. We do, uh, depending on the track someone's on, we do different levels of testing and different data analysis. But we could talk more about that. Certainly depends if it's a perimenopausal woman or a man with ADHD. It's going to be a different set of tests for sure. But we do cover a whole variety. And then, once we have a plan for you, it's really about getting that health team together to hold you through that entire transformation process and really iterating and adjusting when we see how things are impacting you. So, there's always like, you get to the treatment plan. which is, an incredible and an aha moment for so many people because, we usually unlock a few keys that they are just, floored that is true about their health and it really impacts the whole arc. So once we've unlocked those key, insights, then it's about integrating and really, really making that real. So that's the overview of it, and it definitely looks a little different according to how a person comes to us. Is there any like specific areas you'd like to chat about there? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. I have a lot of questions for you based on that because I love those 7 pillars. I think you're right. The first 3, movement, nutrition, sleep, and rest, we would
Yeah.
expect. But so much of what we do at Orange Theory specifically is based around community. And it's for that exact reason of people are lonely. And it came from me personally. That was a struggle for me for a lot of years. And it wasn't because I didn't have friends or didn't have contacts. It was just because I was afraid to show up and be me. So I think that it can be, different for everyone, but having that true sense of community and relationship, I believe has a tremendous impact on your health. So I love that you include that.
That's a wonderful, wonderful little insight from your own experience. And I think, being an expat, you mentioned I live in Portugal now, and that's been an interesting story arc for myself. I love it here, but it's true, community is a challenge. I don't speak the language. I'm actually a new mom, a geriatric mom in the terms of medicine here. And yeah, I think it's probably the one area of my life that I would need the most improvement on, being in the situation I am. Um, but yeah, it's true when these worlds illuminate, all these different opportunities for living your fullest life shine through. Um, yeah. Out of curiosity, have you ever heard of the environment and sensory experiences world before? Is that something did it
You know,
resonate? Yeah.
yeah, tell me a little bit if I got this right, because I'm a person that usually goes outside first thing in the morning for
Mhm.
vitamin D and circadian rhythm. It helps me sleep better. I
Mhm.
also have a dog that really likes to go out first thing. I've also used a lot of red light therapy. So,
Okay, you're in it. Okay,
yeah,
that's great.
I've used it for healing, I've used it for aging. So, would those be examples
Yeah,
of what you're talking about?
yeah, and it's interesting. For some people, the red light therapy is totally new, but I think because 'cause you're in that health space, it's one of the optimization protocols that you're used to, and it just kinda shows where you are on the spectrum of understanding, optimal health. So that's great. Yes, love red light. We love red light. Um, but I think the interesting part is the science around some very specific ailments and actually how it literally heals people, like, and there's evidence for that. And this is just not the sort of thing that you're gonna hear at your doctor's office. No conventional doctor is recommending red light therapy to you that I know of yet, anyway. But we'll get
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Tell me, I know you mentioned, just briefly Parkinson's. Would that be one of the things, and I know you're not on the medical side, but do you see
uh,
Parkinson's, for red light therapy?
uh Yeah, we actually, well, I have to say I have a white paper from one of our practitioners in my inbox that I could look at the science, but as you say, I don't always dive into the details of it. But yes, one of our practitioners is using light therapy for Parkinson's. Um, we also There's also a number of cancer therapies that can be impacted by light as well. I'm not the expert in light, but it's definitely something that comes up a lot more than I expected it would in among our functional practitioners. Um, but of course, there's other things like if supplements are pretty core these days to someone actually having optimal health because our environment is just filled with toxins. Like we can't be healthy naturally in our modern world, unfortunately. We're infused with microplastics up to the ears. Unfortunately, we're breathing in gasoline fumes and, everything. I mean, it sounds dire, but the water that we're drinking and the heavy metals, it's very hard to get clean living, and you can spend a lot of money trying, and I certainly do. But, at the end of the day, we're, jumping on that airplane and going to that conference and, dealing with just modern life. So we come from the position that supplements, for example, are absolutely essential, and the right nutraceutical stack is not only going to enhance your longevity, but in some cases, it's actually just needed like super therapeutically instead of pharmaceuticals. And that's actually part of my healing. At some points, I actually needed to take about 20 supplements at the same time, and we have people working with us who are really sick who are doing the same because they have a lot of ailments to get over. And when you're using supplements in natural medicine, it takes a little longer to get the results sometimes than a pharmaceutical, but you're not putting a band-aid on it. You're not masking, you are literally healing. And that's the difference, right? I was diagnosed with my first autoimmune disease. I say my first when I was 21 years old. And I was never supposed to get better. I was always supposed to be in pain. I was always supposed to be on pharmaceuticals. And they basically, said too bad. And, here I am today with no symptoms, no pharmaceuticals, no sense that that was ever an issue. And that was not within the medical paradigm to give me that path forward. So there's just been a lot of, I feel like miseducation and people are just not told the truth, and it's so sad. They have so much more power. So yeah.
Absolutely. Because I think in conventional medicine, I mean, our doctors are busy. They have to see so many patients for insurance purposes to get through everyone, and they're looking to cure disease, not necessarily get us to optimal health. And I believe there's a huge difference of like what your company is going to do is provide optimal health. And I would agree that takes supplementation. I'm a big supplement person, but I've
Mhm.
also done the testing to know what supplements do we need, because I think a lot of times eh, marketing is good and supplement companies are good at take this, take that, but really understanding your body and
Yeah.
knowing what to take. I
Yeah.
love that Maka takes that approach and helps people do that.
Absolutely. And everyone comes in with a different perspective on supplements. And I think there's a supplement tolerance. Some people, you give them 10, 10 supplements, it's going to drive them crazy. So we're always working within somebody's, adaptation to that much change. But yeah, there's definitely a lifestyle that, if you're continually optimizing, I call it the longevity lifestyle. You move through a protocol and you're tracking and you're understanding, and then you like just like change an element, update an element and see how that impacts you. And so I like to think that I'm aging backwards, because if it was 7 years ago, I looked older and sicker, and that and now I'm a 39-year-old new mom. So I feel like it works. It's just the life that I've led has revealed that to me. So I'm sure you and everyone else that's into health at this level is has a similar story of people come into this for a reason, whether it's a family member or an inspiration. um I think there's just a very new world happening now. And with functional wellness, people are spending so much money to see functional medicine doctors because this knowledge, this precision of expert knowledge, is there's just not the supply to meet the demand. So, so I mean, every city is different, but for the example of Portugal, in Lisbon where I am, the one functional medicine doctor who's here has a 5-month wait list, and that's it's very typical, very normal. So when we're working with the functional wellness paradigm, we're first of all looking at the access. How do we actually get people to this type of practitioners that are going to actually make that substantive change? Um, and as I mentioned, this process is about understanding you as much it is about matching you with a practitioner team who's going to actually be able to deeply address what's going on for you. And that curation is something that I spent, well over $10,000, maybe $20,000 or $30,000 trying to do on my own, because I went to so many practitioners who couldn't solve my problems. I was just looking for anyone, so kept opening doors and realizing that's not the one, right? So that's what we try to take that guesswork out and guarantee that, yes, we can actually help you no matter what. Yeah.
I love that because so just so I understand this right, you can really, I'm in the US and most of my listeners are here. You could take people from the US, anywhere in the US. And I'm also thinking because I grew up in South Dakota, it's a very rural area. There's not a functional medicine doctor where I lived or grew up. So you could take people regardless of location and you have the functional medicine doctors there that you pair them with. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, actually, it's I think it's a real benefit of what we do. We've designed Maka in terms of fulfillment and matching so that no matter who you are and where you live, yes, absolutely, we can work with you. That being said, without getting too much into the regulation, it's kind of crazy though. So I think this regulation is crazy. If you're sitting there in South Dakota, you're not allowed to be, served by a functional medicine doctor in New York or in Florida. It's not legal because of the way that the licensing goes. However, we can certainly serve you with someone from the UK. We can certainly serve you with someone from South Africa. So it's actually a little it's been its own exercise in our company because we don't believe that those borders should be a limitation to people getting the help they need. We can mail you the test and we can get on a Zoom call and it should not be a barrier. So all that being said, we figured out a way that yes, we can do it. And you know, it does make a big difference for people living rurally, a huge difference. So yeah, you've nailed it on the head. Yeah, and a lot of people living rurally don't, they it's not even they don't have access. I mean, they don't have access, but it's it's almost like just the treasure hunt of finding something like this is so hard. Like we've had people like come to us in tears because they're like, finally someone can help me. If their whole community is telling them they can't be helped and then someone says they can, like it's completely, life-changing. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could see that just from my own journey on health. Like there have been times where it's like doctor after doctor trying to figure something out and just wanting an answer or wanting someone to help. So I love that you have the platform to do that. One of the places I love to order from is Thrive Market. They have healthy snacks and staples. They offer free shipping for all orders over $49. I have found a lot of their products to be cheaper. They have great sales. It is my go-to place for healthy foods. I put a link in the show notes for $40 off your first order. I know when we spoke, you told me about two subsets of people. Like you can help anyone, but you really focus on these two subsets of women somewhere in the menopause journey. And it could be premenopause, postmenopause, and also people with ADHD that want to have more of a natural remedy. Can you talk to us a little bit about those two areas and maybe why you focus on those two?
For sure, for sure. And both are so interesting for different reasons. Where to begin? All right, well, let's go with perimenopause since you had it first, said it first. I'll stick on the order. So so with perimenopause, it's such a fascinating phenomena in society right now because so many women don't know that's what's happening to them because no one's educated women that these things happen. Hormonally, it's literally puberty in reverse. Your hormones on a graph go up, they fluctuate, then they go all wonky and crazy around, usually early 40s, sometimes late 30s, sort of up till 50. They go whoa, 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 and then they sort of go back down. And in that phase of wacky, crazy hormones, you're seeing so many different symptoms, and a lot of them are psychological, and people just like don't know what's going on with them. So you have brain fog, you have, mood swings, you have anxiety, like just a lot there that's just impacts the person's quality of life. And then there's all these like wacky symptoms as well that, there's actually 103 symptoms and stuff you'd never think of. So when someone comes to us in that stage of life, um, I mean, sometimes they have a hunch, like maybe this is my hormones. Like, I don't really know. I don't really know. And, sometimes they've talked to their doctor and the doctor said, oh, it's just what happens to you, that's just life, and we're hearing women that are going to like 10 different doctor visits before they're getting diagnosed with like the menopause transition, like with the same symptoms over and over. So it's absolutely deplorable that the medical system doesn't catch people correctly there at all. But anyway, why I'm talking about the specifics of the symptoms is that we find that people come to us and typically there will be hormonal issues, but the thing that conventional medicine doesn't do very well is look at the whole picture and all of the different body systems and how they're interacting. We're looking at thyroid, adrenals, sex hormones, insulin, like gut health, liver health, like this whole stack of different interrelated systems affecting the hormones. And when one goes out of whack, everything goes out of whack. So, I mean, the short answer of that is that, once we can identify what's actually the root cause of the symptoms and not just, assume it's one thing, but actually have the data behind it, then we can go about making a really, really comprehensive protocol. And sometimes, we'll look at people's genetics, especially if they're in this sort of advanced tier of what we do. We do a lot of testing ourselves in the advanced tier. We do the DNA, full genome DNA. And, from there, we match it with the lab tests. We actually, in some cases, tell people to go back to their conventional doctor and get hormone replacement therapy, but ask for very specific tests. Why? Because sometimes women actually should be prescribed hormone replacement therapy, and then they're not because the doctor's saying, oh, it's going to cause cancer. And I saw this one study and, it's not a good thing. That's actually complete bollocks in like 99.9% of cases. So we're also having to educate the general practitioners a bit through their patients. And, it's nice on our side to have that like advocacy of what specific tests to be looking for when the HRT is being prescribed, because one of the things that we see often is women will get prescribed HRT, it won't be working, they'll get frustrated, they'll go off of it, they'll say that wasn't, that didn't work for me, and they'll just suffer the rest of, the time. Whereas really the doctor didn't ask for the right test, didn't make the right prescription, and it just got, messed up from the start. And, and that was that. So we try to look a little deeper at the data so that people don't have to suffer. Long story short. Yeah.
I think this is so good, and I 100% agree. It's an underserved population, and something that I'm in right now. I'm 49 years old. I probably read more books on menopause and listened to more podcasts on it. So I could be very well prepared. I feel like I have dug deep into that data and just see what you're seeing. But I know a lot of like my friends are going through it. They're going to their traditional doctor, and there's just something that doctors aren't trained in. And the study that you referenced that had so many people so scared about hormone replacement, when you really look at the study, it's very eye-opening because I thought for sure that was off the table for me because my mom had breast cancer. But if you really look at the information, you're like, oh, they totally read the study wrong. And we don't have to get into that, but just having that information can be really, really helpful.
It's such an interesting case study and a sad case study on how one piece of science misinterpreted can have like devastating impacts on thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, right? It's yeah, and that's why our chief health scientist is always going into, the journals and the papers, and because we need that. We can't take things for granted that that the practice guidelines are accurate. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this is one area where the 7 pillars of health are really gonna come in that you talked about, because we're gonna look at, obviously, hormone testing, but when you look at adrenals and then you partner it with stress that you talked about, it all plays together because one of the things that I found fascinating, if you have a high cortisol level, it
Mhm.
means your insulin levels are high. And if your
Yeah.
insulin levels are high, you can't lose weight. So I see this a lot in my area. People
Yeah.
are frustrated because they can't lose weight and they're exercising, eating right, and they're completely stressed out all of the time, and it's like, we gotta take some of that stress away. Like, cortisol was meant to go up and down. If you keep it really high all the time, you're not gonna be able to hit your health goals. So I
Yeah.
think it's just a good example of how that all plays together.
And this reminds me of a conversation we were having prior to starting filming this, and we were talking about meditation and just how important mindfulness and, let's say, control over your brain and body connection. But I think if there's like this real beautiful art in being able to empty and just be empty. And so, sometimes my this kind of leads to the ADHD. My brain is very, very busy. I'm one of those people, not clinically diagnosed, but certainly everybody around me says 100% all, no question. Um, and so, you know, when your brain's always going, sometimes I don't even know it is. I don't even recognize it is because that's just normal. And so it was really helpful at one point in my life, a few years ago, I got this meditation headband called the Muse. And when you wear it and you meditate, if you get into a deep state, little birdies chirp at you, and then you just relax more and the birds chirp. And all of a sudden you're like, without thinking about it too much, your body starts to recognize the difference just innately of like, that's relaxation. That is the mind,
Yeah.
quieting. Um, and so that does lead to the ADHD question pretty well, actually, because that was, nothing is more inspiring than your own life experience to try to bring into what you create. So,
Yeah.
um, interestingly, for whatever reason, the founding team of Maka is highly neurodivergent. This is something that brought us together for various ways, and we just related to each other in building what we're building. So we had a lot of passion about researching ADHD, understanding it more, and where sort of it is a cultural phenomena right now in the sense of a lot of people are aware of ADHD and I guess almost like exploring that as a diagnosis for themselves and what it means. And it doesn't necessarily mean that people are running towards a pharma solution, right? They don't necessarily want Adderall, but they might. It really depends on the person. Um, I think just people are finding a lot of almost like peace in like, oh, that's how my brain works. That's why I am like I am, um, and for women, we're getting diagnosed typically, I think 38 is the average age of an ADHD diagnosis, and then compared to a man when they're 7 years old. So as a woman, you've been masking it your whole life and, have been a little chaotic and a little disorganized, but quite high functioning and all these character types that you just sort of think, oh, that makes me unique. That makes me me. But at times, it can be hard. And I think when people need to focus and they need, um, there's just a feeling of like disconnection from being like their most optimized self, like mentally, it can be really hard. It can be a real struggle. And we like to meet people there who I'd say like they're almost like often they're ADHD self-curious, and they want to feel better. They want that control over their brain and body. And we will look at things like genetics because there is strong genetic correlates to ADHD. Um, but there's also like other physical things that express as ADHD. Actually, gut microbiome issues can express as ADHD. Heavy metal toxicity can express as ADHD. So it's not always what meets the eye. But when we start the cleansing process, we start the understanding process, and usually there's supplements involved in the ADHD one for sure. People do feel really well supported, and we've heard that people feel like they have extra many hours in a day, thanks to sort of following it, and also intervening some of the lifestyle stuff as well. I think, you can read a book on it. If you're ADHD, you can read a book and you can hear and understand there's things that you should do, but it's also the accountability to actually implement the things and do the things is almost as hard as knowing the things. So actually for ADHD members, just having that accountability and support and cheerleader, like getting those changes implemented is almost more important sometimes than the changes, but whatever it takes, right? Well, we'll do it. Yeah. Yeah.
That was so good. And one of the reasons I was really actually interested in Maka Health because I love the telemedicine or not just the functional medicine and being able to do it from anywhere. But I
Mhm.
also love the support piece that you add in because I think it's for both of the subsets that you really serve. I think it's so important to have that accountability kind of support person there that
Mhm.
comes with the membership. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. That is very, very essential. We learned right away. So everyone has a health optimization guide that they work with, and that person will look a little different according to, what category they're in, if you will, because everyone needs different things. And yeah, that support. I mean, sometimes I don't call them a coach. I call them a guide because some people need an ear and to be listened to and need like real energetic support, and other people need a little bit of a hard stick sometimes, and they want it, and that's what they need, right? Like a real, check in. So the role can look a little different. But I think the thing that is, in common is that like forcing mechanism for self-reflection, because you sit here and when you speak to somebody and you're speaking to them regularly enough and you really know you because you spent that time to go into every aspect of your life, so it's all about you and they know you, you're gonna discover things about yourself and they're gonna reflect back things that you've sort of skipped over, or might have your blinders on to see, like the repeated patterns we see in people are, yeah, it is what it is. Everyone tries their best, but sometimes you just have to kind of shine the mirror over and over again, and eventually they pick it up. Yeah.
Absolutely. So helpful to have that person. And I love that you really use all different like pieces of data. You talked about the lab test, but can you share maybe some other ones like HRV testing? Even what is HRV? Why would you use it? And if there's other things that you'd use as well.
Yeah. So our typical uh, advanced member is going to get full genome DNA testing. And I mentioned like our chief medical officer or science officer is a Cambridge PhD in genetics and is like hyper focused on that. So we got really good stuff from the genetics testing because of her background. So I did want to sort of mention that because that's a real core to our blueprint. Um, the HRV, now that is one that we're implementing via the Whoop wearable, and we love Whoop because it's really, really holistic. It's covering a lot of different pieces of data, and it's incredibly accurate. So heart rate variability, it's let me get this right. Well, it's the interval, the difference between different heartbeats. So what it's basically reflecting to you is how resilient your body is to stress. And it's very individual. So it's not something you really want to compare with other people because one person's normal could be 20 and another person's normal could be 100. And, you could go into a little bit of an alarm bells if you didn't know where your baseline. But the most important thing about HRV is that it actually gives real-time feedback on things you're doing in your life. So, if you, for example, have food allergy and are having a physiological but quiet response that maybe you're not aware of, that's something that your heart rate variability will pick up on. And uh, clinically, actually, we've seen that cardiologists have been relying on wearables like Whoop to actually solve very clear heart problems for their patients because their diagnostic devices are not being able to see in that level of granularity what's actually going on. So the fact that we're having like that level of real-time a data support is fantastic. And it's one of the things we look at when, anyone who comes into Maka is coming for 6 months because we're on mission and we're on a journey and you're gonna get a lot of change in that 6 months. But you can use your baseline heart rate variability and then see the difference after 6 months and you're going to be so impressed, right? Like you will see a difference. So that's one of the things that objectively, is it increasing your longevity? Is it increasing your health span? Well, when your body's more resilient to stress in life, absolutely, because disease comes when you're not resilient to stress in life. So, it can be that simple, and it is. Heart rate variability is a great sort of all-encompassing measure to capture that. Yeah.
Yeah. So good that you look at that and look at all those other tools that just, I think, paint the big picture of our health versus, not always, but in conventional medicine, we might be looking at just one thing or one diagnosis or one specialist. And really, we're a whole person. So I love that you guys take a look at all of that. I'm a big person on HRV tracking. And to be honest, like, it's hard for me not to wanna compare to others, but I know that you're right that you can't. But it's been an interesting journey to see my own HRV go up because it's something I've been working on. It
Good.
was like, yeah, super low. And just to see it, over time of just meditating, taking out some of the stress, really working on what my body needs.
Mhm.
Even when you said pulling some things out, I stopped eating dairy because my skin would break out, but my HRV has gone up because of all of those things combined.
Woo!
Fun to see exactly what you're talking about with me, like, in real life, and it's something I don't think it's as high as it could be, so I'm still working even though typically HRV goes down with age, mine has gone up.
Well, this is the thing. People go, Michelle, you're going to age backwards. I'm like, that is the plan. That's what we're here for. So I think you already caught the medicine there. So well done. Yeah. Yeah. It's do you know if most people who listen to your podcast are they in the health industry too or are health focused? Because I feel like,
We
you're
do a lot on health, but I'm
yeah.
also like, honestly, I'm curious about a lot of things. So we did one on growing your own food, which relates back to health, but we also did one on relationships with your teenager, which honestly, to me, if you look at your 7 pillars of health, those are all part of it.
Yeah.
It just, I probably have a wider range of health than most people.
I get that impression, and that is wonderful, and why you're gonna age backwards, so congratulations. Yeah. Well, if you'd done Maka, you would have been a great testimonial, so maybe one day.
Absolutely. Yes. Tell me, I have one more question for you about Maka, and it's really about the AI practice that you're
Yeah,
bringing in because I think this is very unique and
yeah.
you're doing it on the practitioner side. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because honestly, I'm a big fan of AI. I think it's going to change the world. It is changing the world that we live in. And we can either embrace it and use it for good or be afraid of it. And I love that you're embracing it. And I really feel like using it in a positive manner.
Yes, I'm definitely also an AI humanist. I'm a pro AI positive, creator, and I think there's well, health in particular, so much space to transform things. The way that we're doing things, it's not financially sustainable. When you look at the American hospital system, it just doesn't make logical sense. So yeah, Maka, we're actually building in two different ways in AI, and both are really exciting to me. On the practitioner side, we're building a recommendation engine that looks specifically at practitioner bias in healthcare. So right now, a lot of the research is very geared towards men, and a lot of female impacted research is thrown out. So we're not getting unbiased research that's going into clinical decision making. So all these practitioners are training the AI to make it less biased, and we're using our own sources and doing it in a privacy preserving way. And that's incredibly exciting for me. But also, one of the things is, not to get too nerdy, but building causal relationships. One thing that, I'd say healthcare doesn't do a very good job of making very, very clear connections between things that are complex. X caused Y. It's not just correlated, that caused X. And that's the data relationship that we're building under the hood. So that's exciting. Although a little bit of a mind twist of what's possible with that, for sure. And then on the other side, we're actually very close to acquiring a company that's actually going to help us get this functional medicine, functional wellness to people at a much, much lower cost, much faster. So fingers crossed, knock on wood, that in 6 months' time, you could start interacting with Maka just on your app right away for free, and start to get some of this insight without the practitioners, but with our functionally trained, I guess you call it an AI agent now, but the technology that works, basically. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
So cool. I think just such a unique place that you're bringing this, that you can use it for good. So I'm excited to see it unfold and how it kind of unwraps for you.
Well, this was an amazing conversation. Thanks for being so engaged in these topics. You can just tell when someone lives and breathes functional wellness anyway, and that is you. So congratulations on your health span. It's going to be amazing. I can tell.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know a lot of people are going to be interested in that. They're going to want to connect with you. They're going to want to age backwards, and Maka might be just a tool to help do that. So how would they do that?
Absolutely. Well, you can certainly find me, but probably the best place to do would be to email info@makahealth.com, Maka with a K, Maka. So that is a great way. We're also all over social media at Maka Health Tech. So MAKA Health Tech. And visit our website too, but we'll be launching a new website soon. And yeah, just can't wait to talk to anybody who has an issue, regardless of what it is. It's just a new problem to solve, and we can't wait to solve it. So that's the sort of practitioners we like working with. Yeah.
Good. And I'll make sure I link all of those to show notes, because usually when I'm doing podcasts, I'm driving or walking. So if that's you today listening, know that you can go in the show notes and get all of that information. Michelle, thank you so much for being a guest. Thank you for what you're doing and what you're creating and helping people live longer and healthier. I love everything about that for you.
Thank you so much, Em. This has been fantastic. Thanks for asking such great questions.
Thank you. If this what resonates with you and could help someone you know, please share this episode. Be the person. And always, it would mean the world to me if you would give us a 5-star rating. Thanks for joining today.